everyone, and thank you for joining on a weekend morning. So, as you all know, that today's session will be on. Sorry, it. I think I got to. So today's session will be on building no-code integration solution using Mulesoft Composer, which will be given by Megesh. And talking about myself, I am Swati Agarwal. I am a senior Salesforce consultant at Marlabs. I am a 9x certified developer. And here I have mentioned my Twitter and LinkedIn IDs. You can reach out to me over the mentioned IDs. Along with me, I am having Sandhya. She is a Salesforce certified architect at UST Kochi, and she's a certified application architect. You can also reach out to her over the mentioned LinkedIn and Twitter handle. So, talking about today's agenda, our speaker will share about MuleSoft Composer and for whom actually it is meant. And he'll also give a live demo of MuleSoft Composer with a real world use cases and key considerations when using MuleSoft Composer. So, all of the people who are new to MuleSoft, so it's a good platform to learn, including me as well. I am not into MuleSoft, so I was looking forward to this session. And you can also we'll be having a Q&A round with Nikesh. So I'll request that everyone please put your questions in the Q&A tab so that Nikesh can take up those questions at the end of the session. You can reach out to us with on the mentioned Twitter handles, which is having our Kochi Developer Group Twitter ID, mine and Sandhya's ID. And also, I have mentioned both of our Trailblazer ID. You can drop us an email of what sessions you want us to present in the upcoming months. So, talking about our speaker, Vikesh is a Salesforce analyst at Deloitte, and he has a good experience working in the Salesforce ecosystem. He is a MuleSoft certified mentor, and he has also worked on MuleSoft's Anypoint platform and studio. Apart from this, he also has exposure to technologies like Heroku, Vanilla.js, React.js, Node.js, NoSQL, databases such as MongoDB, and state management tools such as Redux. So yeah, he's a great mentor to learn for MuleSoft. So I'll stop sharing my screen and over to Mikesh so that he can quickly start up his session.
Thank you, Swati, for that sweet introduction. I will share my screen. Can you confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, it is visible, and there is a bar at the bottom, like a hide button is there. If you can just,
Yeah.
yeah, hide this. Thank you. Yeah, it is visible.
Um, so, um, Thank you all for joining in today's session. And today we would be going through how we will build no-code integration solutions using MuleSoft Composer. This is all about me, as Swati introduced about me. I'm Megesh Shenoy. I am a Salesforce developer with 2+ years of experience. I'm also a Salesforce and a MuleSoft certified developer, MuleSoft mentor. I am also awarded by MuleSoft with Up and Comers Award recently, and was also featured by MuleSoft as Muley of the Month, which is in this month itself, just couple of days back. I am also an active member of Salesforce Trailblazer Community Forum. So let's get started, right? So the first question, what comes into our mind is why to use automation? It's simply like we have to get up early in the morning. We don't have to move anything. The machines itself will come to us, comb us, and then make us ready. Have our food again, go back to sleep, right? This is why we are building automations. Apparently, it is not. So previously, if you had thought about like working in a company right in 1980s, So the operations were not actually optimized, right? So as competition went on increasing, the technology went on advancing. Currently the competition is so fierce that the companies have to keep their margins very low, right? And in those margins they have to also operate. And with that it came down to efficiently using resources, right? So this is why we use automation. It's because we need to improve efficiency, improve employee productivity, focus on mission critical tasks which cannot be automated, use resources efficiently, accelerating expectations, and do more with less. Because the margin is so low and companies have to defend those margins, right? And because of which they came down to automation, make the best use of their resources which they have, right? They don't want to just simply go on hiring resources and do redundant tasks which can be automated very easily, right? So this is all about the business face a widening transformation delivery gap. So as we mentioned that currently the technology is advancing so fast that even in the next 50 years we don't know what kind of technology it would be. One thing is sure in our mind, AI ML would be there dominating the market, but we don't know what kind of other technologies would be there, right? But the major problem that these organizations face is they don't have the resources or the uh, right skill set in their organization, right? And with that the transformation delivery gap just goes on widening and widening. And because of which 82% of business teams say they need easy access to data and IT capabilities, right? Not every organization is blessed to have some good resources with them which would help them and their organization. The transformation gap should be less and less, right? But they are not. The situation is not that currently, and only 37% of organizations say that they have the technology and the skills to pace. So if you think again, you don't have, the companies don't have that right amount of skill set, right? And even if you think in the market there are 10,000 people, out of 10,000 people you will only find 1,000 of them having the right skill, having the right attitude, right? And this is where the companies suffer currently. So this is a small scenario where we would be using an automation, right? Currently, a sales team creates and maintains sales data in Salesforce and orders data in NetSuite. Every time an opportunity record is updated to close one in Salesforce, they have to create a sales order for the products from that opportunity in NetSuite, right? So how this automation is currently taking place in an organization. Let's say that in NTO org, right? NTO is a standard trailhead example if you remember. So over there, the sales admin would create an opportunity record in Salesforce, send the email to the NetSuite admin, and with all the details about that opportunity record, and then they have to create an opportunity in NetSuite. Again, they have to send a confirmation back to Salesforce admin that we have successfully created the opportunity record, okay, in my NetSuite. But from one-to-one perspective, if an organization is very small, then this can help you save some money. But on the longer run, as your company starts to expand, sending hundreds and thousands of emails, having the Salesforce record, having the Salesforce records in the sense the data about the customer, you can easily now understand that this is where the bottleneck exists, right? Because the operations are not fully optimized. Right, in when I started my Salesforce journey, I was in an integration project, and this was actually taking place in a very big MNC. They were sending emails from about creation of a record in my NetSuite and also in Salesforce, right? So the conversation were taking place in back and forth through email chains, and you can now easily imagine that the if suppose the admin are not efficiently tracking the email chains, then what would happen? Loss of opportunity records, right? And also loss of customers, and no organization would want that, right? Giving bad experience to customers. This is where Mulesoft automation truly expands. So previously when Mulesoft came into the market, they were known for their anypoint platform offering. But in the recent years, right, in the past couple of years, Mulesoft Composer and RPA too came into picture. Mulesoft RPA was basically acquired by Mulesoft. It was existing in the market with the name of Service Max, I think. And Mulesoft acquired it, right? Salesforce acquired it and renamed it to Mulesoft RPA. Now, what kind of solutions do Mulesoft Compose or Anypoint Platform and RPA offer which are very different? So Anypoint Platform, you already may be knowing that Anypoint Platform is used for integrating multiple systems, but it's not just simple integration. It's integrating efficiently so that we can onboard and deboard the systems very easily, right? And with lesser of low overhead. So lower, yeah. So apart from Anypoint platform, we also have MuleSoft RPA. Now, why we need to use RPA and when you will be used Anypoint platform? RPA is basically for integrating systems which don't have an API exposed, right? So, if you remember, there are some companies still operating in the market, and they have some big issues migrating from systems, right? And they are still using the legacy systems which don't have an API exposed, right? Like the programs written in COBOL, so they don't have an APIs exposed. So for that we will be using MuleSoft RPA and MuleSoft Composer is a low code integration platform where we can build integration solutions with just clicks and no code. And this is primarily used by people who don't have an experience of building solutions or writing code, right? So this is where this small, I would say, ecosystem of MuleSoft comes into place. Anypoint platform, MuleSoft RPA, and MuleSoft Composer. I would give a standard example of how these three would work. Okay, I have seen a living example of it. So basically, if suppose my sales team goes to marketing, they write down sales data on a sheet of paper, right, in a handwritten format. Now you think that how can we input this data into my Salesforce, right? Into my Salesforce, because then we need to send the data to a person. The person has to manually enter the data into my Salesforce system, right? Yeah, into my Salesforce system. Now if you think about this, this is not an efficient process. So how can MuleSoft help you automating this kind of solution? First, when we send an email, this would trigger my, either Composer can trigger it, either any point platform has the connectors which would trigger the process. Then it would send the lead sheet data to my MuleSoft RPA. Now RPA has a capability called as OCR. I would highly recommend you to go through OCR and understand what OCR is, right? So OCR helps to can successfully read the data, handwritten text, in the handwritten text, and then it can process and make that into a machine readable format data. Now this data can again be sent to any point platform, then process the data, and if needed we can also send it to Composer, where we can now create data in my Salesforce by using Salesforce connector which is already present in my MuleSoft Composer, right? This is how this currently the whole operation can work together in automating an end-to-end solution. Previously it was not fully end-to-end because RPA was not there in the picture, but with RPA right now in the picture, we can integrate any type of systems, automate anything, empower anyone, deliver success. Now this is the newest logo, I would say, a word to say in this MuleSoft ecosystem, right? After having this entire MuleSoft automation package currently in market. Three products, which one to choose? We discussed about what MuleSoft RPA is, MuleSoft Composer is, and Anypoint platform, right? So, with simpler to complex. So, MuleSoft Composer is the most simplest thing. Is the most simplest automation platform where you can build integration solutions. Anypoint platform is in the middle, and RPA. Why RPA is at the bottom? Since RPA is a UI based automation, right? It's not an API based automation. With UI based automation, the automations are very, I would rather say, they, if suppose the if suppose there are changes in the operations, then again making changes in the RPA would be a very costly task. If we say now we will only automate those solutions using Mulesoft RPA which we think they don't have an APIs exposed, and second thing, the operation is very stable, it won't go on changing every now and then, right? But Anypoint Platform and Composer stands in the top. Why? Composer, again saying it's a no code integration solution, right? A tool where you can build a no code integration solution, and very easily you can build up the solution. We already have the connectors available. Just with point and clicks you can build the Mulesoft Composer, or you can build the solutions. But Anypoint Platform is in the middle. Why? Because in Anypoint Platform there are some configurations which we need to do, how many vcos you need to have, then what kind of API led connectivity you need to have, right? You have to. So in Anypoint Platform we top off the API layers one by one, like from system, then process, and then experience layer. This is how Anypoint Platform is currently designed. But Anypoint Platform is used for complex data processing, whereas Mulesoft Composer is not. And this is all about the these three products, I would rather say. Now these are the what kind of personas it is involved when operating or using these kind of products. Mulesoft Composer is for admin and also for a developer, I would say. Since we're not writing a code, then this is the best fit tool for admin and developer. Now, Anypoint Platform, you need to have a developer mindset, as said, because sometimes you may not need to code, but you need a developer mindset when using Anypoint Platform, and the same goes for RPA as well. You have pre-built connectors in Anypoint Platform, right? Like Salesforce connector or SAP connector, you have all these connectors. But there are some situations where you need to write the code, right? Like using data, we need to make data transformations in Anypoint Platform, right? For that you need to have a developer mindset, I would say. But Composer, on the other hand, as I said, you don't have to do anything sort of it. It's very simple and straightforward. So the hierarchy goes from like simpler to the complex, right? Mulesoft Composer on the top, being very simple. Mulesoft Anypoint Platform is in the middle, and RPA at the bottom. Now we would go through the implementation demo of what Composer is and how we can build integration solutions using Mulesoft Composer. So currently, let's go back to our trailer example, which is an NTO org, right? So currently, the NTO org has sent some part of their sales or marketing team to an mall called a Phoenix Mall, which is in Mumbai currently. Okay, they are just marketing about their products. Now they are writing down all the data in a Google sheet currently, right? So like the say all the lead example, right? The phone, email, and everything. Otherwise they may be having a lucky draw and some kind of stuff where the user needs to give that data to NTO org. I mean the NTO sales team or the marketing team, they would enter their data in a Google sheet. Now what we need to do is once my marketing team or the sales team enters their data in the Google sheet, a new lead record should be created in Salesforce. And also I would also notify my sales team that this record, the new lead has been we have received a new lead in my Salesforce or right. So with that, now my sales team, which is offshore currently, okay, can work on those, like make some cold callings or some kind of stuff, right? Also we can yeah, not if not this, then we can also use some other kind like marketing cloud for sending out targeted marketings to those customers, right? So we can also use that. We have the marketing cloud connector in Mulesoft Composer, right? So this is a very simple lead, I would say, a lead generation process currently we need to automate. Now, these are some of the technical requirements or the questions we need to answer. So, do you interface with systems which have APIs? I would say yes. So, currently, if you go back to the diagram, so Google Sheets has APIs exposed, Salesforce has APIs exposed, and Slack also has API exposed. So, the answer to the first question is yes. Do you process documents or images? Currently no. We just getting some simple data, lead data, create records in Salesforce, and then send the data to my sales team over the Slack channel. So then Do you interact with websites or legacy systems? No. Since Mulesoft, not Mulesoft, but Salesforce, Google Sheet, and also my Slack has APIs, right? So the answer to the third question is no. Now, do you need to perform complex data processing? No. If the answer to this was yes, then instead of using MuleSoft Composer, I would have went for Anypoint platform, because Anypoint platform is very powerful in terms how we can process data in batches or some kind of that, right? So uh, another question: do you need to integrate systems not supported by MuleSoft Composer? No. Currently, we can only integrate systems which have APIs exposed, I would rather say. So the answer to this is no. Now, do you have extensive development experience? No, right? Because the scenario is very simple and straightforward, and me as an admin, I would think I don't have an extensive development experience, right? For I don't have the developer mindset currently. So answer to this question is also no. We successfully evaluated that yes, MuleSoft Composer is the right tool to be used for this kind of automation, right? So another set of no another set of questions which you need to answer as an admin. The first question: where does the data come from and where does it go? So if you go back to the diagram, the data originates from Google Sheets, then the data is sent to Salesforce, and then to my Slack channel, right? So uh, so the answer to this is data comes from Google Sheet, goes to Salesforce and Slack. Then does the data needs to be filtered? Right now, I'm not filtering out the data, since all the data is very important to me, right? So I can send some targeted ads or something like that. Now, what transformation must be performed? Now convert the data in the format that Salesforce and Slack requires, right? So each system has their own way of creating records in their system, right? They would accept the data, they would understand what the data contains, and what no what needs to be created or what needs to be operated in the system, right? So we convert the data in the format that Salesforce and Slack requires. Two different circumstances require different actions. Yes, relevant sales team must be informed depending upon the customer's interest. Right now, if I say this to you, NTO is currently selling only scooter bikes, and also there are general inquiries about it. Right now, I have no NTO has different sales team for bike, different sales team for scooter, and also different for sales team for just answering to general inquiries, right? So we have three different Slack channels present. Now the another question you need to ask yourself is: determine the trigger run schedule. So run after every new row is inserted in the lead Google Sheet, right? You need to also make sure when you want this MuleSoft flow should trigger. I want it to trigger for each and new lead record is inserted into my Google Sheet. Now, this is the very must, I would rather say this is one of the most important step, right? Which would help you designing your composer flow. So you can either use some tools like draw.io, or you can also use a pen and paper and draw it yourself. This would help you to understand from how you can design how you can design your flow in my composer, right? So if you see now, a new lead record is added in Google Sheet. Once the new lead record is added into Google Sheet, I would simply create a lead record in Salesforce. Now, depending upon the customer interest, I would either push a message to my Slack channel, right, which is the sales team handling the bike, or the sales team handling the scooter, or the sales team answering to general inquiries. So this is how I build, no, I designed, right? So this helped me to actually design my composer flow. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So this is my MuleSoft Composer instance. Now, when you go and create a new composer flow, you would have these. I would rather say you have these two options. One is system event, and another one is scheduler. Now, if you want this MuleSoft Composer flow to be triggered when there is an operation that has taken place in an external system, like in our case, whenever a new lead record is created in my Google Sheet or entered into a sheet, then this would trigger my Composer flow. Else, if I want this composer flow to be periodically run, right, it should trigger periodically, like for every 15 minutes or half an hour or one day, and so this is, you need to decide what should trigger my composer flow. So currently I'll just go to system event, and let me refresh this. So you need to decide what kind of system is where from the data is originating, right? So in my case, the data is originating from Google Sheet. So go to system event, and right now, if we can see, I already have a Google Sheet connector available, right? So I can simply go to Google Sheet, and I have already authenticated or built a connection between my Google Sheet and my Mulesoft Composer. But for you, how you can do that? Just have to go and simply go and click on plus icon over here, enter some name, and then once you click on connect, a new screen will pop up. Just enter your credentials or give the access to the composer, right, to access your Google Sheet. And once you have given the sufficient access, everything is done. You have simply built a connection between your Google Sheet and your Mulesoft Composer with just clicks. You don't need to do any kind of configuration right now. So this is how you build a connection, right? So if I go and simply click on the existing connection which I have built, now I can, there are these kind of actions available. Now choose an event that starts this composer flow, right? So over here I would simply go and say new row. So for each and every row that has been entered in my Google Sheet, this composer flow would trigger. Simply give what kind of spreadsheet it is. Now I would say leads Phoenix Smaller it is. Then worksheet name is sheet 1. So this is the Google Sheet, right? So my composer flow is currently reading this Google Sheet. Now if you see, these are the rows and the columns over here, like the first name, last name, email, phone number, source, company, and interested, right? So if we see that this is the Google Sheet and this is the sheet one, right? So this is the worksheet name is sheet one, spreadsheet it is lead sheet and all. Now in what kind of fields I want to be available in my composer flow, right? So I will simply go and click on select fields. So if you can see that these are the rows which are present. So these are the columns, I would say, the company, email, first name, interested in, last name, source, and phone number. You can see each and every column is present in this Google Sheet. I can simply go and click on whatever fields I need or I require in this composer flow, right? And simply go and click on apply. Once I do this, right now again I have to build a connection between my Salesforce, right? So if you remember, once a new record on a new row has been entered, a new row has been, data about a customer has been entered into a Google Sheet. I want this lead record to be also created in Salesforce. Simply go on, click on the plus icon, go on system action, and right now, if you see, these are the list of connectors that are currently available in my Mulesoft Composer. We have Marketo, we have Jira, we have Slack, Twilio, Zora, Zendesk, and every, like, most of the systems which are currently, used by many of the companies like the Box and Gmail as well. So these are all the connectors available. Now we can see for Salesforce we have two connectors available. One is for Salesforce CRM and one is for Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I will simply go and click on the Salesforce, right? Now if you can see that again we have that connection list present. Now these are the list of connections which have already which is already present in my Mulesoft Composer instance. For you to create a new connection, simply go and click on the plus icon. Now you need to give some name over here, right? Give some name. Now once you give some name, if it is a sandbox instance, check on this, right? Now I would be redirected to see. I'll show this to you. Now I am redirected to test.salesforce.com, right? I need to enter the data about my sandbox, the password, click on login, then click on allow. Okay. Once you have done that, I'll simply close this as of now. Yeah. So once you have done that, you have successfully created a connection between your MuleSoft Composer flow and also between the MuleSoft Composer flow and Salesforce Sandbox instance, right? If it is a production instance, simply remove this checkbox over here, click on connect, right? Enter your credentials. Currently, these are the usernames which are currently using. So so currently, yeah, I already have a connection. So enter your credentials over there, like your username and the password, and then you have successfully built a connection between your MuleSoft Composer Flow and Slack, and MuleSoft Composer Flow and Salesforce. The same thing goes for Slack as well, right? So for Slack, go to Slack over here. Now this is already a connection present. Now I for you to create a new connection, simply go and click on the plus, add new Slack connection, enter the name of your Slack, and click on connect, right? If you are a Slack admin, you can successfully build a authorize and build a connection between a MuleSoft Composer Flow and Slack. But now if suppose you are a normal user, then you can't do that because you need to have a special permissions in your Slack workspace, right? Without it you can't. So be sure that you have the sufficient permission in your Slack workspace as well. Now this is already I already built this composer flow, right? So if you remember this, the Google sheet is would decide, this connector would basically decide when my composer flow should be triggered. Over there I have simply entered new row, leads Phoenix small sheet, and over there in the worksheet with name which is sheet 1. I have selected all the columns that are present in my composer flow. Then in my second action, I would simply create data in my production instance, right? So this is how I have entered. Now, what kind of data I want, like what record I want to create in my Salesforce. So these are the list of actions that are available in my Salesforce connector. Create new record, update record, get records, create or update record, delete record, download file, and upload file, right? Now if you want to learn about download file and upload file and how you can transfer files between two Salesforce orgs, I have created a video and you can just refer that as well. It's a very informative video, where we can, you have to use document upload link, document content, document link and all, right? So just it's very interesting, I would rather say. Right now, if you can see that I am creating a new lead record in my Salesforce instance with all the details, right? The row, the company, last name, email, and first name, phone number, and so on, right? So whatever data I have entered in this Google sheet would automatically be reflected in here as well. Create a new lead record in my Salesforce instance. Now this is the standard if else condition, right? So so if you remember, I have three sales team currently present. Okay, one would be handling inquiries related to the bike, another one for scooter, and the third one is for general inquiry, right? So over here, once no, if in the interested column, if I enter general or scooter or bike over here, right? So based upon the condition, if it evaluates to true, if suppose the bike evaluates to true, then a new message would be pushed to my Slack channel, right? Informing my NTO bike sales team that, hey, sales brazer, we have received a new lead. Kindly look into this and all, right? So the same thing goes for this if else block as well over here. Now just think of this as standard if else condition, how we use in programming languages, right? If else if, right? In that, if suppose one of the if condition evaluates to true, then other would not be evaluated, right? They would simply be skipped. The same thing, the same logic goes over here. If my this if condition evaluates to true, then these two if else block would basically be would be skipped, right? So this is how it currently works. Now and same thing goes for in this if else if block as well. So just informing my sales team, right? But this time it's the scooter sales team, and now in the else condition it's the general sales team, right? Which would answer to general inquiries. Now there are two things when you are building this composer flow. First thing, you have to test it with the sandbox. And sandbox, why? Because we just can't push this flow into production, right? Now the how we push this composer flow into production is very different than how we have in Salesforce, right? And we test the data with, it's currently present in my sandboxes, then I would push it to UAT sandbox or integration sandbox, and then I will push into production, right? But this is not in case of MuleSoft composer flows. MuleSoft composer flow, there are two flavors of MuleSoft composer flow. One is the standalone composer flow which you are seeing right now, and another one is MuleSoft composer flow for Salesforce. So that MuleSoft composer flow would be added as a managed package in your production org, right? Now people would be like very scared to install MuleSoft composer flow in production. Why? Because they would think that MuleSoft composer flow would now operate with production data, make some changes which they are not I would say they are nervous about it, right? They are nervous about it. Now you can go ahead and purchase this Composer Flow standalone Composer Flow instance as well. So yeah, so this is all about how you have built this composer flow, right? Now, once you operate, you are very assured that yes, my composer flow works accordingly, right? How I want to. Then you can simply go and change the connections present over here. Right now, I have this EMEA production, right? If suppose it was a sandbox instance, I'll simply go click on change connection. Over here I can decide what kind, where this what Salesforce org should this lead record be created. Then I can I can move it from production, from sandbox to production, right? So once I have done that, once we have done all of these configurations, right, and deployed to production, there are again two buttons present over here. One is the test and another one is activate. Now for how these two button works is a bit different. Now for test, again, once you're using with sandboxes, you need to, you would be testing vigorously, right, to ensure that this composer flow is working accordingly. Now if you click on the test icon, in the background a new Mule application will actually be created and deployed to Cloud Hub, right? So this is, even though you are seeing this very simple flow, but in the background all the heavy load is done by MuleSoft, right? So they create entire new a Mule application and deploy to Cloud Hub, and Cloud Hub is where we have Mule runtime, which would basically help you to execute a MuleSoft application, a Mule application. Now once I have click on the test button, I have 10 minutes of time frame allocated for me to test this composer flow. Now what I would do, I would simply go, yeah, I have already these data present. Simply I would say Mule, okay, go here, and yeah, so I have now, just think of this as my sales team has, no, they got a they actually inquired with the customer, got the customer's necessary details like phone number and all. Now this customer would be like a lead to me, right? So what I would do, create a lead record in my Salesforce org, then inform the sales team over my Slack channel. So we can see that my MuleSoft composer flow has identified that a new row has been inserted in the Google sheet. Now you can see all the data is present, whatever data I had entered over here, you can see in this visual form, like the company Salesforce, Astro at the retest.com, and so on. Now if you see, I have successfully created this new lead record over here, and it has returned me the Salesforce ID of the newly created lead record. Once we have done that, then my MuleSoft composer flow would go to the standard if else block. In the if block, it evaluated that yes, the customer is interested in bike. Now it has successfully informed my sales team, right, the bike sales team, that see, we have received a new lead. Please call the lead or do some kind of operation which you are supposed to do according to what kind of operations or what kind of things you have set up in your organization, right? Now you, so see, we have now my MuleSoft Composer has created and pushed this new message to my Slack channel, informing my bike sales team that see, we have a new lead record. If I do click, if I simply go and click on open in Salesforce, let's see. if you see, we have successfully created this mule automation 5th Feb, right? So this is how end-to-end automation would basically look like in your Mulesoft Composer. Now, yes, so going back to the PPT, okay, yeah. Now this is about what about error? This was my very first question when I explored Mulesoft Composer and how it would gracefully handle errors, right? So in if you remember in my lightning flows we have something called as fault lines where we can handle errors. In Mulesoft Composer we don't have anything called fault lines or nothing sort of that. So till I would rather say till mid of April there were no error handlers present in my Mulesoft Composer. So even if your Composer flow would throw errors, there was no way to handle it, right? If suppose my Composer flow ran once, it threw error for that same business use case, and for the next same instance, it like the business use case, it again threw an error. So there was no way to efficiently handle this kind of scenario. And also, if you think that in there is no such thing as rollbacks in my Mulesoft Composer. So because these are very different systems, I would say, like Google Sheets is a separate system. Once you send data to these systems, there is no way you can get the data back. You can delete the record, right? There are no rollbacks available in my Mulesoft Composer. So you need to be very careful about these kind of scenarios as well. And because of which error handling is a was very important in my Mulesoft Composer. So this was the state of Mulesoft Composer before error handling, right? It was like a ticking time bomb. You don't know when it would burst out and through errors, right? Because of absence of error handling. So this was actually introduced, I would rather say 2 weeks back. Error handling in Mulesoft Composer, right? Now this error handler is currently in beta in the beta phase. So if you remember in the beta phases, there may be some scenarios or circumstances that it would not work accordingly, but Salesforce is actually working on them, right? So if you inform the team about this, what kind of issues you have faced with error handler, they would actually go and try to fix that error, that issue instant, very much proactively, I would say that. Now in this error handler there are two kind of blocks available. One is the watch and another one is on error. In the watch block, it's simply as a try catch block, I would say. So if you remember in your programming language or something like that, we have like try catch, and inside the catch, like we have also have the catch ladder, right, which would basically handle different kind of catch exceptions, right? So basically, like if suppose I have system limit exception, we would basically handle it the last catch block, right? But we need to also handle some error like exceptions, like numerical exception, something like that, right? So we have, so same thing, the mechanism goes the very same for error handling in Composer flows. So we have these two blocks. In watch block would basically a try block where you would place your connectors or the steps which you would think would throw an error, and on error block is where, or the catch block is where you will catch those errors. Then there are again two kind of configurations available in my on error block. So first thing is the condition we have to set, right? So this condition is basically, if suppose I want to handle error which has been sent by Google Sheet, right? So I would simply go and set the condition such that this error has been, this on error block would only evaluate and run if the error has been thrown by Google Sheet. Now the second kind of option which you have is after running, right? Continue or stop. Continue means that if suppose my error handler, the watch block, the elements present in my watch block threw an error, now on error block would simply catch that error. Once it caught the error, you may either want to my Mulesoft Composer flow to execute further elements, or you want my Mulesoft Composer flow to perform some set of actions and then stop over there. I don't want to execute the actions which are present after this error handler block, right? So in our scenario, if we see that, if suppose my watch block threw an error, on error block would basically catch the error based upon what kind of conditions you have set. Now based upon conditions, now it would now evaluate what kind of behavior you want out of this error handler. Either continue, like handle the error gracefully, perform some set of actions like informing the other, like pushing out data from to other external systems, right? In our case, I'm pushing the data to Salesforce, informing Salesforce that yes, there was kind of some error in my Mulesoft composer. Now I would either no if suppose it is continue, then it would simply go and execute this slack element as well. Otherwise, if I click on stop, then it would not execute the slack element. So this is how error handling currently works in Mulesoft composer. So I'll also give a small demo about this as well. So yeah, so this is basically my error handler currently. So if you remember, and watch block would contain the elements which according to you would throw an error, right? So in this watch block, so see, we have these two over here, right? So in this watch block we have three elements present. One is the Salesforce, again Salesforce elements like connector over here, which would basically getting records from my account object, right? With I have, for right time being, as for demo perspective, I have set this well, I have hard coded this ID over here, right? So it would basically return one account record. Now I would simply go and update that account record, right? So if you see over here, these two are two different Salesforce instance. Now if you give some account or some object record over here which is nowhere related, then it would basically throw an error, right? Now let's test it up, right? So over here, if you can see that, so once this watch block throws an error, my on error handler would basically execute it. Now the conditions, I would, if you remember, the conditions are something I would set, right? I want this on error block to only catch the errors which are thrown by a particular system or for a particular error, right? So I would set the condition over here. Now I have set this after running as continue. That means that whatever actions that are present inside this would be executed, and the error would be suppressed, and now this slack connector or the element would be basically executed. Now in this the trigger context I have set is a new or updated record, and object type as account. Now I would simply go, okay, so I'll simply go to my account and change the description over here, right? Click on save. Now let my Mulesoft composer evaluate that yes, account was actually updated in my Salesforce instance over here, right? Now it would basically throw an error. Let's wait for it. So I hope you are very much clear about this error handling block as well. Just think this as of try catch block. It's but in the try catch block, if error is thrown, catch would basically catch that error, and so I think it would suppress it, right? But over here we have those options over here like continue and stop. Now if you see that Mulesoft composer has identified that yes, a new account record was actually updated, and see that test finished. So over here I can see that these are the lead account record details over here which was updated, right? Now so this actually threw an error. So we can see that there was some other account ID, not account, other org's account ID which was mistakenly set over here, because of which this error was thrown from my Salesforce org, right? The attempted operation failed, and the reference key, the invalid cross reference key, right? Now if you remember, my on error block would execute. Now these elements would not be executed, so we can see there is no tick mark over here. That means this was not executed at all. This element was skipped. So whichever element threw an error from this, the afterwards element would not be executed, and the error would be thrown. On error block would basically catch that error, then execute this slack element over here, right? So we can see it has successfully sent a message to my channel like Mulesoft composer error handler over here with the message like about the error type and description. And because this was set to continue, my the actions which are present outside this on error block was also executed. So we can see a green checkbox over here as well, right? So we can see these are the message which was pushed, right? The error type, Salesforce, faulty response, and details about it, right? So you can see on error continue, max the mule, message received over here. On error continue, max the mule, message received, on error continue. So now this is about on error handler continue, right? Now this is about the propagate. Now again, it's a very same mechanism that is present, right? But just showing you how it would work differently for these two, like on error, propagate, and continue over here. So this error handler is actually very if you have learned Mulesoft, right, in any point platform, we have these two kind of error handlers, like on error continue, on error propagate. And the mechanism works very similarly. Continue is where you would gracefully handle the error and would not throw error again and let the other actions execute. But on error propagate is where it would it would catch the error, execute some certain steps, and again throw the error, right? So I would again go and okay, right, I'll simply go and click on save. Now let my Mulesoft composer flow identify that yes, account records updated. Now in the background, if I say this to you, my Mulesoft composer would basically go on, querying my Salesforce org, right? Like polling my Salesforce org and identifying that yes, account was actually updated or created in my Salesforce org. And right now it has identified that yes, account was actually updated, and again it would throw the error over here. So this, not this, but this block through the error, like the attempt failed, like again the same it's not a valid Salesforce ID over here. And the on error was in the on error block, caught the error after running is set to stop, so it executed this slack element, but it did not execute this slack element because it handled the error, executed certain steps that are present in this on error block. Again it threw an error, so that's why we got the test finished with errors over here, right? So again I will move back, error handler, and we can see this is the error type, what I have set, error type, error description, but this block did not execute. And this is all about error handling in my Mulesoft composer. This is a new feature which is present, right? The other another feature is, if suppose you have built the entire Mulesoft composer, right? Now you have set the connections to pointing towards sandbox. Now you have to deploy it to production, right? Use it with production data. Now if because there are no concept of reusability, the composer would be very long, the flows would be very long. Now for this scenario it looks short, but for some scenarios this would be very huge, right? So changing connections again and again would be very difficult. What you can do is, so click on the settings icon, and we have these two new options available, export and import. If you click on export, it would basically download this Mulesoft composer which is present in a JSON format, right? So again what I can do is go to flows, click on new flow, create flow from scratch, click on the settings icon again, import beta, select flow, I'll go here, right? So we can see that no, I imported this flow over here. Now this is a way where you can also share your composer flow outside this composer flow instance as well, right? So now you have built a composer flow which you want with you, right, while leaving the organization as well. You want to keep this flow where you can use it for the future. You can download this composer flow, that it would be present, the data would be present in a JSON format. Now when you upload this composer flow, my composer flow instance would actually be, parse it out, understand like what kind of connectors are present in my composer flow, right? Now I can now simply go and click on any one of it, right? And yeah, click on import flow. Now you see that is one and the same. But what you did, you have successfully, saved your time and changed the connection, pointing it from sandbox to production, right? So this is how you would also deploy. This is a deploy mechanism in a composer flow, right? Your composer would be present directly in your production or production instance. If suppose you are using MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce, otherwise you can also go for the standalone instance. Now, again, this is another part where if suppose you have activated your MuleSoft Composer, right? So we have this list view available, which is the run history list view. In this list view, you can see what if suppose your MuleSoft Composer flow through an error, then it would have the status as fail, and if suppose everything executed as normal, then the status would be success with no error present over here. You can filter this out based upon date or based upon status as well. So there are 26 connectors, I would say, not 26, because right now, as we go on talking about it, if I'm not wrong, every month Salesforce or MuleSoft actually makes a connector available, right? So the count must be somewhere from 28 to 29 connectors or 30 as well currently in my MuleSoft Composer. Now, again, there are two things to add over here for connectors as well. So click on okay, so this is the plus icon. Now click on the plus icon for connectors system action, right? So these are the list of connectors, and right now if suppose you have an system which has APIs exposed but there are no connectors available, right? So what you can do, you can simply use HTTP connector. In this HTTP connector, I already have these kind of configurations present right now, but yeah, you can basically make a call out to that API using HTTP connector as well. So yeah, so this is all about HTTP connectors, like what kind of connectors are present in my MuleSoft Composer. Now, key consideration using MuleSoft Composer. Before that, I just want to show you this. So, if you remember, I had built one. If you are connected with me on LinkedIn, I had actually built one Composer flow. And what this Composer flow would basically do, right? It was automating this ticket booking process in India driven. Currently, the process is closed down, but I can show you this is how a MuleSoft Composer flow I had created. Right now, what would happen, again, the steps are very same. Create, like, it would identify that a new row has been inserted in my Google sheet. Now make the data available over here as well, like the city, emergency, and all the contact details present, right? Now what it will do is, this is my MuleSoft RPA. Now this is RPA, right? If you remember, RPA is like accessing legacy systems or systems which don't have APIs exposed. What I am doing, I am passing the data to this MuleSoft RPA. Now my MuleSoft RPA would basically understand, get the data from this, trigger it out, then it would simply do the UI automations present, right? And then once it is done, I would simply push a message to my Slack channel saying that yes, no, this Trailblazer booking confirmed for the attendee, right? So okay. Yeah, so we see that no, currently, since the booking process has stopped, but this is one of the instance where I had run this flow, composer flow, and we can see that this message was actually pushed to my Slack channel that hey, Trailblazer booking confirmed from coding the developer organization India Driven. So this is how we can also trigger MuleSoft RPA from my MuleSoft Composer as well. Now, there are key considerations when using MuleSoft Composer. First thing, there are no concept of reusability. Now, if you have worked with Lightning flows, you remember there is something called as auto-learn flow, where you can simply create some reusable flows, and you can make call flows that auto-learn flow from anywhere, right? So you are simply making this flow reusable, but there is no such concept as reusable in Composer, right? So it is one entire flow where you will have all the elements present. Now there are also no sandbox, where sandbox I would say there are no sandboxes present for MuleSoft Composer. It would basically be installed in your production org, Else, it can also go for a MuleSoft Composer standalone instance. No versioning. You simply create one flow. If you want to create another version of the flow, you need to actually create a new flow, and you can already know how you can. Right? There is a simply a clone button. You can also use that, right? So there is also no versioning of Composer flow like how we have in the Lightning flows. Again, it's not real and near real time, but like it's near real time but not 100% real time, right? So uh, it would basically poll my Salesforce, or in our case for every 10 seconds, to understand that yes, this yes, the account was actually updated, or yeah, account was actually updated, or this new row has been entered in the Google sheet, right? So for every 10 seconds interval, it would basically poll. Then each record processed to a target system would count as each task. Now this goes on the pricing mechanism which you have placed in MuleSoft Composer, right, or what your organization has currently purchased. Now there, if I'm not wrong, there are 2.5 million task records available with the basic pricing of MuleSoft Composer, right? So you have to efficiently use those task records as well. Now, this is not meant for bulk data operations or very high data intensive operations. Now, for bulk data operations and very high data intensive operations, MuleSoft Anypoint Platform is the right tool to be used over here, right? So, for licensing, right, for purchasing MuleSoft Composer, you can either purchase MuleSoft Composer, or you can also purchase MuleSoft Composer, MuleSoft RPA, and also Anypoint Platform, all in a single bundle as well. But again, there are certain usage limits as well, right? Now how many, like for how much data you can process in your Composer flow and everything, right? So it also depends upon those, what kind of pricing, or what kind of what kind of tier you have purchased on MuleSoft Composer. Now, how to get started with MuleSoft Composer? Now, MuleSoft Composer is not freely available. What you have seen is, it's not a free tool right as of now, but MuleSoft actually is conducting these workshops once in a month. The last workshop which was there was, I think, in the month of February. After that, they haven't conducted workshop. But what you can do, if your company is a partner to Salesforce, then you can reach out to Salesforce account executive and secure the access to MuleSoft Composer, right? So there are also trail mixes available, and one tool which would greatly help you to understand and visualize MuleSoft Composer is the Trailhead simulator present, right? You can find this in Trailhead module as well. Like if I'm not wrong, it is for Salesforce and Slack module, where you can find this Trailhead simulator available. Please do join this Trailblazer community forum as well, the MuleSoft Composer, right? So if you have any doubts regarding MuleSoft Composer, just post it out here, and you may be lucky that the product owners of MuleSoft Composer would actually answer to your questions and get it resolved as soon as possible as well. So yes, this is all about from Mulesoft Composer. Now, I would request that if you can scan this QR code and fill a Google form, right? So this would actually help me to make my content better, understand what changes I need to do in my content presentation, and in the future you can see them as well. So I would basically request you to scan this QR code, enter some. I won't be capturing your personal information. Everything would be like very simple, plain questions, right? How did you like a session and not, right? About feedback about the session and how it can be improved. Just take 2 minutes of your time and just fill it out. It would help me to uh, present my content in much better way. Uh, with that, thank you everyone for staying tuned and joining on Saturday for learning MuleSoft Composer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miguel.